in interesting times. Today's stories. Schools in the Greater Toronto Area return to in-person learning. New support to produce COVID-19 vaccines and treatments in Canada. New travel requirements for Canada. Canadian government approves purchase of Air Transat. U.S. sanctions Myanmar coup leaders as generals warn protesters to return to work. Philippine Consul General Honolulu addresses state of Filipinos during virtual town hall. In sports, lawsuit from NBA Finals altercation against Raptors president dropped. And an inside look at the NBA G League Ignite squad. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News International from Canada. I'm Cara Cabuso Pascual reporting from St. John, New Brunswick, bringing you stories from across the globe.
Good news out of Ottawa for people waiting to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. You know, Canada has been plagued by delays and reduced shipments from both Pfizer and Moderna. As the week ended, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was the bearer of good news on the vaccine front.
We've received an updated delivery schedule from Pfizer that brings us to the end of March. We can confirm we will be receiving the 4 million doses we've been committed to since last November from Pfizer by the end of that month. We will share this schedule with provinces and territories so they can prepare to get all those doses into people's arms.
And a beaming Prime Minister had even more good news. He says in the spring and summer, Canada can expect to receive another 9 million doses from Pfizer. But there's more.
On top of this news on Pfizer, I can also share today that we've purchased 4 million additional doses of the Moderna vaccine, which will be arriving over the summer.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, what does this all mean? Can you hit that target you have of having enough vaccine to immunize everyone in the country by the end of September?
That's part of the reason why we can say with such confidence that everyone who wants a vaccine in Canada will get one by the end of September. We've been continuing to work every single day on getting as many doses as possible, as quickly as possible, into Canadians' arms.
Trudeau's optimism isn't shared by the majority of Canadians. An Angus Reid Institute public opinion poll says less than 1/3 of Canadians believe the government will meet that goal. And compared to most other nations, most Canadians view the country's vaccine rollout as a dismal failure. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
New restrictions are put in place as students return to class on Tuesday. Eagle News correspondent Yolanda Aspiras with the details.
Schools in the Greater Toronto Area are set to return to in-person learning next Tuesday, February 16th. According to Education Minister Stephen Lecce's announcement last week, this is because the community transmission has come down. Take a listen.
We made a commitment to Ontario parents that we would get your child back to class, but it had to be safe. You know, we're the only province in the country to have cautiously reopened our schools as we have, but we followed the medical advice. And now, with the unanimous voice of all local medical officers of health, with the full support of the Chief Medical Officer of Health and some of the best pediatric hospitals in the country, we are able to reopen our schools. Now the community transmissions are down with strong protocols in place and stricter screening and better province-wide access to asymptomatic testing and an additional $381 million of funding. We are ready to get your kids back to school, so important to their mental health.
New measures will be implemented as students in the Greater Toronto Area head back to the classroom this coming week, such as mandatory masking requirements for grades 1 to 3, mandatory masking requirement outdoors for grades 1 to 12, high-quality cloth masks as backup supply will be provided for students, enhanced screening for students and staff, discouraging students from gathering together before and after school, targeted asymptomatic testing, and eligible teacher candidates to be granted temporary certification to stabilize staffing levels. Currently, there are talks of the Ontario government cancelling the upcoming March break to discourage travel during this time. Here's what education critic for Ontario's official opposition, MPP Merritt Stiles, had to say.
Families, educators, students have been working really tirelessly for the last year now. As Andrea pointed out, they've spent a lot of time on screens. They need a bit of a break from that. And what we need is a government that's going to learn the lessons of the last year. We need a government that's going to take the necessary precautions and provide clear and consistent messages for Ontarians.
As of February 9, there are 99 new COVID-19 cases in schools reported in the last 2 weeks. 67 schools have a reported case of COVID-19, and 1 school is currently closed because of an outbreak. Since the beginning of the current school year, there are a total of 7,442 cases of COVID-19 in Ontario schools. In Toronto, Yolanda Aspiras, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The Government of Canada has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Novavax to pursue the production of its COVID-19 vaccine. Here is Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie with the story.
The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, has announced that the government has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Novavax to pursue the production of its COVID-19 vaccine at the National Research Council of Canada Biologic Manufacturing Centre in Montreal. This is to strengthen and expand the capacity of Canada to manufacture safe and effective vaccines, treatments, and related supplies across the country. It includes the investment of Made in Canada project to protect Canadians from COVID-19. The Prime Minister has also announced investment supporting the vaccines, therapeutics, and biomanufacturing projects in Canada that includes up to $25 million to Precision Nano Systems Incorporated, a Vancouver-based biotechnology company, as well as up to $14 million to Adessa Biotech Inc., a biopharmaceutical company based in Markham, Ontario, Canada.
We won't rest until every Canadian who wants a vaccine has received one. Now, this is no small task, and we knew there would be some hurdles along the way with unpredictability and increased demand for production. That's why we created a smart, proactive plan on vaccines and vaccine rollout. It's why we secured as many options as possible with hundreds of millions of doses from companies around the world. And it's why we invested in vaccine development and manufacturing here at home. And on that front, I have good news to share. 2 companies, Precision Nanosystems and Novavax, are now on track to manufacture vaccines right here in Canada. This is a major step forward to get vaccines made in Canada for Canadians. To begin with, we've signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Novavax to produce their COVID-19 vaccines at the new NRC Royal Mount facility in Montreal. Pending Health Canada approval, tens of millions of Novavax COVID-19 doses will be made right here at home. We need as much domestic capacity for vaccine production as possible. That's why we've already invested $46 million in the vaccine development facility at the University of Saskatchewan's Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization. The good news we've just heard is that Vido Intervac now projects they will be able to produce up to 40 million doses annually. We are investing in Canada's biomanufacturing sector for today and for the long term.
The investment and the actions of the government are to inform by the recommendation of the COVID-19 vaccine and the Therapeutic Task Force and COVID-19 Joint Biomanufacturing Subcommittee, as the Government of Canada always rely on science and evidence-based on decisions. According to the Government of Canada, we'll continue to partner with Canadian industry and businesses to protect Canadians from COVID-19 and to build a biomanufacturing capacity as part of the country's recovery plan. In Ottawa, Canada, for Eagle News, this is André Lajoie. We live in an interesting time.
New travel requirements come into effect this February 15, 2021 for those traveling to Canada by road. Eagle News correspondent Sabir Mufti with more details.
Government of Canada has issued another travel requirement that goes into effect this week for Canadians arriving in Canada by road.
Let me start with some news on border measures. As of February 15th, when you return to Canada through a land border, you'll need to show a 72-hour PCR test, just like for air travel.
Government of Canada has lists of considered acceptable COVID-19 molecular detection tests, like PCR, RT-PCR, quantitative PCR, and the like. According to the government, a proof of vaccination will not replace a negative test result. Travelers should keep the proof of testing for the 14-day period that begins on the day they enter Canada. This new official travel advisory is in addition to the previous travel requirements of having a negative COVID-19 molecular test arriving by plane, comply with 3 nights while waiting for the molecular test for COVID-19, and paying for the costs of hotel accommodations. Alternatively, travelers can present a positive COVID-19 molecular test taken between 14 and 90 days prior to departure. In Ottawa, Canada, this is Sabir Mufti. We live in interesting times.
Canada approves the purchase of Air Transat by Air Canada in an effort to bring stability to Canada's air transport market. Eagle News correspondent Vanessa Condi reports.
The travel industry is one of the hardest hit sectors due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The federal government has approved the purchase of Air Transat by Air Canada, one of the largest airlines in Canada. The purchase amounts to $190 million. The Minister of Transport, Omar Al-Gabra, has said in a statement, "Given the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the air industry, the proposed purchase of Transat AT by Air Canada will bring greater stability to Canada's air transport market." He has also mentioned that it will be accompanied by strict conditions which will support future international competition, connectivity, and protect jobs. We are confident these measures will be beneficial to travellers and the industry as a whole. There has been opposition to this deal from other airlines, noting the greater market share Air Canada has on European destinations. With the suspension of flights to different destinations, this is even harder at times for the airline industry. In Victoria, BC, Vanessa Condi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
The United States slapped sanctions on the leaders of Myanmar's junta, warning that more punishment could come even as the generals in Yangon ordered demonstrators to get back to work or face effective actions. As Myanmar was preparing for a 7th consecutive day of anti-coup rallies, the U.S. Treasury Department announced it was blocking any U.S. assets and transactions with 10 current or former military officials held responsible for the February 1 coup. Demonstrations condemning the ouster of civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi have largely been peaceful, although security forces earlier in the week used tear gas, water cannon, and rubber bullets on protesters, with isolated reports of live rounds being fired. In the most significant concrete action, President Joe Biden announced his administration was cutting off the general's access to $1 billion in funds in the United States. Targets of U.S. sanctions announced Thursday include Army Chief General Min Aung Hlaing, who now holds legislative, judicial, and executive powers in Myanmar. Hlaing was already under U.S. sanctions over the campaign against the mostly Muslim Rohingya minority. Also targeted are military leaders in the new cabinet, such as Defense Minister General Mya Tun-u, as well as 3 gem exporting companies controlled by Myanmar's military. We are also prepared to take additional action should Burma's military not change course, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, using Myanmar's former name. If there is more violence against peaceful protesters, the Burmese military will find that today's sanctions are just the first, she said. Biden had earlier called on Myanmar's military to release democratic political leaders and activists, adding the military must relinquish power. In Europe, the former colonial power Britain welcomed Biden's steps, with Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab tweeting that we will hold those responsible to account. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell also warned that the bloc could impose fresh sanctions on Myanmar's military.
Coming up, Philippine Consul General Honolulu addresses State of Filipinos during virtual town hall. In sports, lawsuit from NBA Finals altercation against Raptors president dropped. And an inside look at the NBA J League Ignite squad. Eagle News International continues after this.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas! A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News International from Canada. I am Cara Cabuso Pascual from St. John, New Brunswick. Philippine Foreign Affairs Undersecretaries Sara Lu Ariola and Ernie Abella
recently hosted a virtual town hall for Hawaii, where topics range from the current status of Filipinos during the pandemic to their increasing presence in various professions and industries. Eagle News correspondent Alfred Acenas from our Hawaii Bureau provides a recap.
Sabi nga nila, kayang-kaya ng Filipino yan. Yes, we are hurt, we are hit, but we will survive.
During the Hawaii OFW Town Hall hosted by the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs, Honolulu Consul General Joselito Jimeno provided an update on the status of Filipinos in the Aloha State.
We number about 370,000 Filipinos, 26% of the 1.4 million population of Hawaii. And Filipinos are the second largest ethnic community, and they represent the biggest non-white ethnic group. In terms of COVID cases, Hawaii surpassed 26,000, which is 1.6% have died. Again, Filipinos ranked second highest, both in terms of infections, 19%, and deaths. Because of the pandemic, the consulate has pivoted its engagement with the community, and our frontline services are shifted to online forums. Let me just tell you about the engagement we have with the Filipino community, which are on two strategic priorities: empowerment and image building. Our engagement is both generational and sectoral. We endeavor to reach first generation, to the young professionals and the youth. We collaborate on many activities with Filipino and Filipino-American businesses, cultural, educational, and social-civic organizations in Hawaii. The consulate does not encounter many ATN cases because, as I said, most of them are permanent residents and immigrants. But we continue to look at the situation of the J1 visa holders. These are the student participants in the exchange visitor program, whose programs are prematurely terminated. Our ATN section provided them with necessary information for their travel to the Philippines. We also regularly monitor the condition of around 300 Filipino fishermen in Hawaii, and we conduct goodwill visits to check on their welfare. The Filipinos' survival instinct, will always be here.
Other guest speakers in the virtual gathering included State Senator Benet Misalucha, who stressed on the importance of more Filipino representation in government, University of Hawaii Program Director Dr. Agnes Malate on the significant roles and contributions of Filipinos in Hawaii's history, Cheryl Yoshimura, who represents the large population of Filipino healthcare workers in the state, and Gemma Weinstein on behalf of Filipino employees in Hawaii's multi-billion-dollar travel and tourism industries. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Acenas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
In sports, a lawsuit against the Toronto Raptors president from a 2019 NBA Finals altercation has been dropped. Eagle News correspondent Jarita Sese reports.
Winning it all at the NBA Finals is what any of the 30 NBA teams hope for. From their players to their coaching staff, right up to the presidents and owners of each organization, that's what all the hard work is for. That coveted Larry O'Brien trophy. That's why when the Toronto Raptors won their first ever NBA title in 2019, the court in Oracle Arena was flooded with several members of the franchise organization, all except one, Masai Ujiri. In the 18 months since the 2019 NBA Finals, we have heard the various details surrounding the altercation that occurred between California law enforcement officer Alan Strickland and Raptors president Masai Ujiri. Mr. Strickland claimed that he had stopped Ujiri due to the lack of credentials that allows individuals in a specific area, hence the altercation. Since then, body cam footage has been released and showed new details of what transpired. Due to the alleged injuries that Mr. Strickland reportedly suffered as a result of his altercation with Ujiri, he was filing a $75,000 lawsuit against Ujiri while also naming the Raptors organization, MLSE, and the NBA as a whole as part of the suit. Ujiri in turn filed a countersuit claiming that the officer used excessive force against him while he was simply trying to join his team on the court. It was reported this week that both lawsuits have been dropped without any financial settlements from either parties. An MLSE spokesperson stated Masai has been completely vindicated, as we always knew he would be. Prior to playing the Washington Wizards this week, head coach of the Toronto Raptors echoed those sentiments regarding his president being vindicated.
Well, I'm certainly happy it's over for him and that he, is done with it and out of it. That it's a long process that he had to go through, but he did it properly and just went through it without ever wavering. And I'm sure he's glad it's over with, as we all are.
There's no doubt that Raptor fans all over the country want to relive their team's championship run, but this was a moment that no one hopes to see again. Reporting from Toronto, Canada, Zarita Sese, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
NBA G League Ignite started their season on the winning note against Jeremy Lin and the Santa Cruz Warriors on Wednesday. Eagle News correspondent Tenny Sumagi takes a glimpse of the squad, which features Filipino-American standout Jalen Green.
The wait is over for Jalen Green, Daisha Nix, Jonathan Kuminga, and Isaiah Todd. All high school standouts who are playing for the NBA G League's Team Ignite. We'll take a glimpse of what Team Ignite is all about, and we'll hear more from these players.
I'm super excited. I feel like we've been hitting for so long and just been working out. Now we get the chance to showcase our talent and play again.
Come on now.
Good morning, fellas. Being in the G League bubble, great environments, great people around us.
ISO JG, ISO. And one. There you go. Hand on the swivel. All right, head on the swivel.
I'm most excited about playing against guys that I've been watching for years, even on the college level and some guys who've been in the league.
We'll have more highlights and stories on Team Ignite and other teams in the NBA's G League. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Cara Cabuso Pascual. We live in interesting times.